For the next 10 days or so, I think everyone's eyes are going to be focused on the transfer portal. Who's coming? Who's going? And did USC pick up some more recruiting momentum? Another crystal ball?
You are Locked On USC, your daily podcast on the USC Trojans, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, fight on, everyone. I'm your host, Mark Culkin, and thank you for making Locked On USC as part of the Locked On Network, your first listen every day. Whether you're watching the show on YouTube, you know you can pick a platform, you know you can download this podcast. It's always free. I always appreciate your support when you do that. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers, you can get $250 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. All right, the 10-day transfer portal window is open. The names are flying by. I mean, fast and furious. Last time I checked, 15 minutes ago, before I started taping this episode, there was 3,305 names in the transfer portal. Obviously, that hasn't happened since it opened. This most recent window, that includes the winter one that opened up in December as well. Nevertheless, a big number. So you got over 3,300 guys jumping in. Half that number has committed. And here's the shocking number. You would think that this number would be a little bit bigger, but only 108 actually took their names out of the transfer portal. In other words, they kind of did the hokey pokey. They dipped their toe in the pool. Like, nah, this isn't for me. Pulled it back out. I find that really interesting that there's so many people out there, so many players looking for something different than what they started. I get it. Everyone's allowed to change their mind, have a different prerogative, but it just seems like that number keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger every year since the transfer portal window opened. Got to dial it back somehow. Anyways, I'm getting lost in a rabbit hole there. Maybe with the expanded rosters, more guys will find homes. I mean, remember, it's supposed to be going from 85 to 105. So we'll see, if that's why there's so many names in the portal, why there's so much movement. I don't know. There's still more names than spots are going to be available, unless some guys are willing to drop down. And I'm talking about going from Division I to Division II, that type of stuff. USC has a couple of needs that they need to fill from the transfer portal. And here's the thing that's really cool is you got guys who are already setting up visits. I'm going to talk about that in the second segment. In the first segment, though, I wanted to kind of bring everyone up to speed, up to date with guys who are leaving USC. The most recent guys who jumped into the transfer portal. So as I mentioned, at the time of this show's taping, right now there are a total of four Trojans that have jumped into the transfer portal since January. So let me kind of just go over those names again for you real quickly. Back in February, you had Solomon Tuliapupu, solo, grad transfer, one of my all-time Trojan favorites. He decided that he's going to go play at Montana. That's his last rodeo. So Solo was at USC for 6 years. He's now going to go do it at Montana for one more go around. Hopefully, he's able to put some stuff on film consistently so he can get a chance in the NFL. We'll see what happens there. In March, just recently, he made it official, but back in March, cornerback Malachi Crawford, he let everybody know he's jumping into the transfer portal. He wasn't even on USC's spring roster. That's how far in advance I think everybody knew he wasn't going to be part of the program anymore. In his 2 years at USC, it's just been injury plagued. So he has spent 2 years on USC's rehab island. That's what I call it. Guys who, wearing the yellow no contact jersey, red shirting, whatever the case might be. That's been his domain since he's been at USC for 2 years. So he needs a fresh start somewhere else. I let you guys know, first week of spring camp, running back Amarian Peterson, he's made himself available into the transfer portal. I think everyone knew he was going to be the guy, especially after USC brought in 2 transfers, Waymon Jordan, Eli Sanders. They also brought in 2 more high school recruits, Harry Dalton, Riley Wormley. Riley is already on campus. He's working out during spring. And we know Waymo, he's been getting a lot of, positive pub from the coaching staff, from his teammates. He's probably already, running back 1A. So he's the guy to beat out. It's understandable why Amarian decided to leave. And if you watched yesterday's episode of Locked on USC, I told you that second-year defensive end for the Trojans, Lorenzo Cowan, is transferring. So he was the most recent. Those are the 4. And then back in December, I'll just go ahead and add this name in there because it came up. His name came up in the comments section. So I'll let everybody know. Kololo Taaga, the offensive lineman, he jumped in the transfer portal in December, and he made a commitment to Utah late December. So that's where you're at right now. It's so weird. The defensive line, it's so deep, right? So when you're 3,000 miles away from home, like Lorenzo Cowan, and you're starting to notice that, my playing time might not be where I want it to be, doubt starts to creep in, and that's why you end up jumping to the portal. He's probably going to move, find a program closer to home. He's from Georgia. I'm talking about Lorenzo Cowan. If I were to guess, there's probably going to be at least anywhere from 1 to 5 more players who will jump into the transfer portal from USC. I'm going to leave the names and all the speculation to you guys. You can throw out your thoughts in the comment section if you're watching on YouTube. With that being said, if USC adds a couple of guys, they bring some guys in through the transfer portal. And again, depending on the different position groups, that could change that number as well. I mean, for instance, like at safety, I could see at least one guy pulling up his stake and saying, you know what, there's just too many guys in here for me to compete with. And like I said, I can see as many as 5 guys from the roster in total. I'm thinking safety might be one of those position groups that takes a hit. We'll see. There are 2 groups that cannot afford to lose anybody, right? We've talked about this. But I think linebacker or wide receiver, they're fine with the numbers where they're at, but you can't lose anybody. And it goes without saying that the linebacker room needs to add at least 1 body, maybe even 2. So if we're talking about linebacker, you've got Eric Gentry, Desmond Stevens, Anthony Beavers, Jaden Walker, Garrison Madden, and then you have 2 of the preferred walk-ons, Ryan Quintanar and Roman Marchetti. You've got a couple of guys coming in Matai Taguai and AJ Tuatelli, but they don't arrive until the summer. I'm not saying that USC needs to add another wide receiver, but going back to what I was talking about, you can't afford to lose anybody from that position. There's just not a lot of guys there with experience, especially once you get past Makai Lemon and Jacoby Lane, Jay Fair. You brought in Prince Strawn from Boise State. Last year, you brought in Jaden Richardson, the transfer from Tufts University. Is he going to play this year? He got a little bit of action in 2024, but not enough. And then you get really young. I mean, you don't have those names that I mentioned. They've got experience. DJ Jordan, he's a redshirt freshman in 2025. Josiah Zamora, he's got he's been around the program for a while. He's got a little bit of experience, but he's a redshirt senior. Corey Sims, incoming freshman, he's been at spring camp. He's taking in his first spring. And then you got a couple more wide receivers showing up with Tanu Kynes and Romero Ison. So as long as USC doesn't lose anybody, especially from that first group of names that I mentioned, they'll be fine. If you lose somebody who's got experience, now you got to take a look. Those are the wide receivers, and you got 5 walk-ons. But again, you don't want to be looking at your walk-ons as the guys who are going to fill that void. Basically, USC, the wide receiver room, Dennis Simmons, Chad Savage, Lincoln Riley, they just have to kind of put their collective heads together and decide, do we have what we need specifically in the slot? Can DJ Jordan, can he run the routes from the inside, or is he strictly an outside guy? Are they going to use athlete James Johnson, who's in spring camp? Are they going to try and put him in the wide receiver room, see if he can, run routes from that slot position? So again, you can't afford to lose anybody from wide receiver or linebacker. And we know linebacker is a position of need in the transfer portal. Wide receiver it's just kind of walking that line. As long as nobody leaves, you're okay there. Is there anyone in the offensive line room who could possibly leave? Right? I guess it depends on who and how many guys USC brings in. They're looking for at least one person. And then I don't think they're going to be looking at the defensive line. Look, it's possible they bring somebody in, but it's kind of weird when you think about it, how last year that defensive line room was like the kiddie pool when it comes to depth. There was no depth. I mean, you stick your foot in and the water barely rises above your ankle. Now it's like the deepest position on the roster. And then as far as quarterback, no one's leaving, especially with Nico Iamaleava, now a UCLA Bruin. Yeah, he found somebody willing to take him. I guess beggars can't be choosers, but his Power 4 school options, they're really limited. So, like I said on yesterday's episode, I'm just going to spend a real quick minute on this. This needed to happen. I'm glad the young man found a home back home in Southern California. This will be the perfect opportunity for him to kind of rehabilitate his image. Now the latest thing is, well, he wasn't leaving Tennessee for money. It was because of the offense they were running. Again, everybody in that camp needs to just shut the mouth and start focusing on Nico playing football, just showing what he can do. Because every time someone from that camp says something, it just makes it look worse. And they got to stop. A couple more segments to go here. All right. Scaling your business requires the right expertise at the right time. With Upwork, you can find specialized freelancers in marketing, development, design, and more, experts ready to help you take your business to the next level. Upwork gives businesses flexibility by connecting them with top freelance talent across multiple industries, including IT, AI, web development, marketing. Whether you need extra hands for a project or a long-term partner, Upwork makes hiring simple and affordable. And if you need help with a marketing campaign, Upwork can connect you with a freelance expert who delivered incredible results. And posting a job is free, and it's also really easy. And within a day, you're going to have multiple qualified candidates to choose from. Visit Upwork.com right now and post your job for free. That's P like Paul, WORK.com, Upwork.com to connect with top talent and grow your business today. Let's talk about now what USC needs and who wants to be the first to fill that void at USC. So we talked about in the first segment the guys who have already jumped in the transfer portal. You're going to let me know who you think might jump into the transfer portal, because that's not my job. This segment, let's talk about USC's needs and who possibly showing up. USC's already getting some visitors lined up. For anybody who missed yesterday's episode, shame on you. So it doesn't happen again. If you're watching on YouTube, click that red subscribe button, smash that thumbs up, click that bell notification. You won't miss an episode, and you'll get all your news, notes, and information you need, including recruiting. With that said, if you watched yesterday's episode, you would already know USC is lining up guys at positions of need for visits. These are the guys that are interested in. I told you about the offensive lineman from Ferris State University. His name is Bryce George. He's a Division II All-American, 2-time All-Conference selection. He won 3 national titles. He's 6'5", 315 pounds. Okay. He's checking out USC. He's also going to check out Cal and Iowa. Those are the 3 visits he has lined up so far. This would be a perfect candidate for USC's room. He's played tackle at Ferris State. Whether he's not, look, if he comes to USC, he might, compete for that right tackle job. I don't think he would get the left tackle job now with Elijah Page there. And I mentioned this also. He kind of reminds me of Cortland Ford. He's got that, he plays tackle, but he's got that interior offensive lineman body. He's kind of squatty looking, even though 6'5", 315 pounds. 6'5" isn't squatty, but when you look at him, you'll understand. Watch this film, you'll see the resemblance in the body type. But you got some other guys who are lining up some visits, including one who has a do not contact tag attached to his name. We'll get to that here in just a second. Usually when somebody puts a do not contact and they're in the transfer portal, that player knows where they're going or has a pretty good idea where he's going to end up. He's pretty much narrowed it down. But this next one is a position of need. And he's a local player. And he looks like he might be looking for an opportunity to finish up his college career playing in front of family and friends in Southern California at the University of Southern California. Former St. John Bosco standout, linebacker, Andrew Simpson. He's going to take a visit to USC. 6'2", 238 pounds. He took a red shirt in 2021, but these last 3 years, he's been the dude at Boise State. 141 tackles. Of those 141, 32 tackles for loss, 12 and a half sacks, 3 interceptions, 5 forced fumbles, 2 fumble recoveries. Not bad. Not bad, right? I could see him making an impact at USC. But he isn't the only linebacker who's lined up a visit. This is one I like. It's not that I dislike Andrew Simpson, but you're getting him for 1 year. One of the rules that I kind of, my own rule, when it comes to the transfer portal, I like guys who have multiple years of eligibility left. That way they're not just a mercenary. They want to come, they want to be developed. How about he's now former South Dakota linebacker. His name's Gary Bryant. Gary Bryant III, not the wide receiver who played for USC. He's going to be taking a visit to USC this weekend. Coming up. Last year for South Dakota, the Jackrabbits, about 103 tackles. One of their games was at Wisconsin. Dude went beast mode. Had 11 tackles against Wisconsin. He was all over the field. He can also drop into pass coverage. 6'1", 230 pounds. He's from Baltimore, Maryland. He was unranked coming out of high school, 2022. And then 2023, kind of got his feet wet a little bit. And then last year just blew up. I mean, like I said, 102 tackles, 2 interceptions, forced fumble, and a fumble recovery. If Rob Ryan can make this happen, if he can relate to this young man, kind of get his attention. Again, I like this pickup because he's a redshirt sophomore, meaning multiple years of eligibility. Give me 2 more years. This is the one that I think USC fans are going to be really excited about. Not that you wouldn't be excited about any of those players that I just mentioned, but if I said USC might have located their next Matt Grudigan or Gritty Vance, everyone would be going, cool, let's sign him up, right? You might recognize the last name Urlacher. His dad, Brian, NFL Hall of Famer. Really good linebacker in the NFL, played at New Mexico in college. Well, his son is a safety at Notre Dame. Sounds like his son, Kennedy Urlacher, wants to wear the cardinal and gold instead of the green and gold. We know USC has a position open, that nickel spot. They're trying to get that figured out ever since Greedy was going off to the NFL. He came in last year in the spring transfer portal, and he was exactly what USC was looking for. I like Urlacher's game because he's got some versatility. He can play safety, he can play nickel. He brings the anger when he hits you. You'll know you're being hit by that guy. Like I mentioned, he has that do not contact tag attached to his resume, so to speak. And the most important part, he has a relationship with Chad Bowden. In fact, Chad Bowden allegedly was a big part of his recruitment. And when you've got the pedigree of the Urlacher last name, he is a take. He is a take. So now you bring him in. You know, I was talking about on yesterday's episode, USC is taking a look at Kamari Ramsey at nickel. Now you really got some tools in your toolbox to play around with. I will say this though. Before I say this, let me kind of finish off Kennedy's resume. He played in 14 games for Notre Dame last year. Most of it was on special teams. And then I read this quote. This tells me he loves football. Honestly, kickoff is my favorite. I love punt. Kick return is all right, but kickoff, yeah. I think I could definitely have a shot playing right there, right now. You love that attitude because anybody who likes playing on special teams, they love playing football. So yeah, bring them in, sign them up. And again, anytime you can hurt Notre Dame and you're USC, +1, right? I want him. But if he comes, as I mentioned earlier, I would not be surprised. This is where I was going just a second ago. I wouldn't be surprised if another safety jumps into the transfer portal. That room might be a little bit too crowded if you bring in a Kennedy Urlacher. You already brought in Bishop Fitzgerald. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, those are just some of the names that are already lining up visits. If you want to get, keep yourself updated and get all that information when I'm not around, don't forget, when I'm not here making Locked On USC your first listen every day, you're getting on over there to wearesc.com. Take advantage of that $1 weekly subscription special right now. Check out all those nuggets that Scott and Eric are dropping. It's worth the buck, trust me. All right, one more segment to go. And I told you USC's got some recruiting momentum. I'm going to explain next, coming up. The NBA playoffs are almost here, and FanDuel is giving new customers an incredible way to get in on the action. Right now, when you join FanDuel and you place your first $5 bet, you're going to get $250 in bonus bets. All you got to do is win that first $5 bet. And I love how FanDuel makes betting so easy, whether it's picking your favorite team, diving into those player prop bets, it doesn't matter. You want to, pick who's going to shoot the most three-pointers, steals, assists. FanDuel has many ways, many ways to bet on your favorite player prop bets. Plus, after the game tips off, you can do this. You can combine your live prop bets into a same-game parlay, and now you got a chance to win big. Don't miss out. Head on over to FanDuel.com. Claim your $250 in bonus bets today. The crystal ball predictions are starting to roll in again for USC. USC's got a lot of momentum right now. They got the #1 ranked class in the country. And we know that they want to get every single top player from the state of California. So what if I told you that the crystal ball predictions for Talanoa Ely are starting to roll on in? That happened on Wednesday. Not 1, not 2. I think I saw 3. That's good news. What that means is USC is the school that everyone thinks USC has the inside track for Talanoa now. when those recruiting gurus start throwing in their prediction picks, their crystal balls, they're telling you who has the inside track. If USC can get Talanoa to commit before his official visit, that would be solid. I don't think it'll happen, but if it does, I'll tell you why. That would be really cool to do it now, because then when he takes his official visit, he can do what his homeboy did. Tom got it down. Say, I'm done. I made my commitment. I took my official visit. I saw everything I needed to see. I heard everything I needed to hear. I'm done. Tom, Talanoa. Yeah. Tom shut down his recruitment last week. That was a huge momentum shift. It's starting to tell everybody else out there who's considering USC, yeah, now's the time to do it. The other reason why you really want him to shut it down, this would be a must win. USC cannot come in second place 3 years in a row for the best linebacker from California. It happened with Kingston Viliamuasa in 2023. It happened with Madden Faremo last cycle in 2024. This has to be a must win in 2025. Coach Riley, Chad Bowden, the entire coaching staff, they've got to keep the state's best at home. And I get it. One of USC's best, one of the best in USC's backyard moved to Hawaii to play at Kahuku, but he's still from California. And again, this would be another sign that USC's backyard locked up. Gates closed. Teams like Oregon, just find somewhere else to go cherry pick. Because the ones you take from California anyways are already jumping back on the transfer portal. Remember the name Roderick Pleasant from Sarah? Yeah, well, guess what? He's in the portal. Pardon me. So yes, Talanoa is in Hawaii now, but he's from California. He's a California kid at heart. USC has to keep this momentum going all the way through the official visits. Because if they do that and a few more guys join the class before then, guys like Samuel Utu, Malachi Lee, Kingi Pepe, yeah. By the time those official visits are over at the end of June, USC might just be able to close out their class. It's like, we're done. We got like 5 spots left. Don't wait, because we're not waiting for you. So when you have guys like Tom and Ely, assuming he commits, once you have those guys on board, the pressure to commit and reserve a spot, that's just going to grow. It's going to get more intense. And even though USC said, we're bringing in 35 at least in the high school class, they're at 22 right now. That number is going to continue to shrink as far as spots left. So 22 turns into 23, 23 turns into 26 all of a sudden. Now you got less than 10 spots available. So we'll see what happens. Right now, USC is feeling really good about their recruiting. A lot of momentum. You're starting to get crystal balls for guys that you really want. And they're starting to cherry pick in the transfer portal. They're getting guys lining up visits. I'm telling you, they get that young man, Kennedy Urlacher from Notre Dame. It's going to be good. It's going to be good. All right. You know what else is going to be good? Another episode of Locked on USC. I'll be back tomorrow. I'll also have my Friday rant in that episode. Anything else that comes down as far as transfer portal news, names, guys coming, guys going. So until then, everyone, you know what to do.